We are live.
Okay. 1 minute. Anne has arrived. 1 minute, and I will open the room to the general membership. 1 minute. Somebody needs to mute. Okay, I'm going to admit all. The floor is yours, Stephen.
Yeah, are we ready to go ahead and start?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to call the November board meeting of the Oregon Country Fair to order, and are we going to try and ring us in? Can you hear me? Oh,
yes, the ringer does not is the sound, the audio isn't working for a ring, so I could make a noise if you like. Ring.
Okay.
Good old Tom.
And so looking at the agenda, we're going to start with announcements. Are there any announcements? Please raise your hand in chat if you have an announcement. Last call for announcements. Oops, Sue.
Everybody, I've got news from Food Committee. The new food booth application is up on the site. We don't know yet if we're going to need new food booths, but it's best to be prepared. So if you or anyone you know might be interested, please let them know. And also, Food Committee is doing a call out for new members. We are particularly interested in people who've had a long history of working in a food booth. Women are especially encouraged to apply. All you need to do is go to the OregonCountryFair.net page. You will see the links for our food committee meetings. Come and join us for a few meetings. If you like it and things work, we'll get you on the committee. Thanks a lot, folks. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. AJ.
Yes. Nice to see you all. The board convened in a closed session on both October 18th and October 23rd to address personnel matters and cast votes on related issues.
Thank you. That's all I have at the moment. Are there any other announcements? Last call for announcements. Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the September 25th and October 2nd minutes? Can we consider these together? Hearing no objection, we'll consider them together. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes of both meetings?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Sandra Bauer and seconded by Thomas Horn. Is there any discussion on these minutes? Okay, hearing no discussion. I see no hands. Last call for a discussion on the minutes of those meetings. Now, these will have to be, I think, pre-election board members voting on the minutes because the minutes are from the meeting and before the certification. So can we do a roll call vote of the people who are on the board prior to tonight's certification? Or, well, actually, is there any objection to adopting the minutes? If there's no objection, we'll simply proceed. So if anyone has an objection to adopting the minutes, please say so. Last call. Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted unanimously, noting, I believe our only absence is Anne here. Yes, so the only absence would be John Silverman. Okay, so we're moving on then to agenda review. Is there any discussion of the agenda? If there is, please put your hand in the chat. Last call for any discussion on the agenda. Paxton.
I talked to Kevin on the Emerald Ash Borer report. He just got out of the dentist and is not in functioning condition to give a report. And he asked me to pass that on. I would like to use that time to talk about, for just a couple minutes, about the workshop that we've got coming up in 2 weeks, the board workshop. So to try and get the word out on that. So thank you.
Okay. So how about, do you want to just discuss the board? Does the board workshop a committee report, or would you like to just make it an announcement and do it now?
I could do an announcement now.
Yeah. So why don't we'll strike the Emerald Ash Borer Work Group report from the agenda. And since there's no one to do it, I assume there's no objection to doing so. And why don't you go ahead and give that as an announcement now?
And basically, much of the information that would be passed on at that report is going to be presented at the Emerald Ash Borer Board Workshop in 2 weeks on the 20th of November, 7 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting, and I think you can get the link through the .net website. So highly encourage everybody who's interested in what's we're trying to do to combat the Emerald Ash Borer and what we are concerned about. So it's an all fair presentation. Everyone is welcome. Please come to the board workshop. It's really for us board members to sit down and start getting a handle on the problem. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And as the last end of the agenda, we'll repeat that announcement. So is there a last call for any discussion on the current agenda for tonight's meeting? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. I would entertain a motion to ratify the 2023 election results.
So moved.
To
And a second,
Second.
second,
who was who I heard Lisa, but I heard her second. Who seconded before Lisa?
Sandra.
Oh, Lisa can have it. That's good.
Lisa can have it. Okay.
Yeah.
thanks, Sandra.
You're welcome.
So Arna moved to ratify the election, and Lisa Parker seconded it. Is there any member input on ratifying the election results? Please put your hand in chat if you have any input on ratifying the election results from the membership. Okay, seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on ratifying the election? Last call. Is there any board discussion on ratifying the election of the 2023 OCF board election results? Nope. Okay, seeing none, we will proceed to a vote. Is there any objection to ratifying the 2023 election results? Last call. Is there any objection to ratifying the 2023 election results? Hearing none, it passes by unanimous consent. And we will move on to the election and the appointment of officers. Or the election of officers. So we'll start with the president. Is there a nomination? Nominations for president are now open. Kevin.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate AJ as president of the country fair.
Second,
Who seconded that?
John.
Is that
John
John?
Steinhardt.
Is there any other nominations for president? Last call for nominations for president of the Oregon Country Fair Board. Hearing none, is there any objection to election by acclamation? That means if there's no one else running and no one else is objecting, then it's a done deal. So AJ is elected president by acclamation. We'll go to vice president. Are there any nominations for vice president? I see John Alexander.
I would like to nominate Arna Shaw as vice president for the Oregon Country Fair.
Second.
Okay, so Arna is nominated by John Alexander, seconded by Thomas Horn. Are there any other nominations for vice president of the Oregon Country Fair? Last call for nominations for president of the Oregon Country Fair. Okay, hearing none. We have again only one candidate. Is there any objection to this election by acclamation? Any objection to election by acclamation? Hearing none, Arna is the vice president of the Oregon Country Fair for 2023. We will entertain nominations for the treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Hillary.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, so Hillary is nominated by Arna Shaw and seconded by Sandra. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Last call. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Is there any objection to election by acclamation? One candidate. Hearing none, Hillary is the treasurer of the Oregon Country Fair for 2023. And we'll move on to membership secretary. Are there any nominations for membership secretary? Memsec.
I'll nominate Stephen Dyerkoff. I'll second that.
I had put my hand in the chat.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. You can have it.
No, Sandra got it. I was trying to be a nomination bully.
Well, Sandra's got her name on a couple here, so. So Stephen Dyerkoff's nominated by Sandra, seconded by Kevin. And are there any other nominations for membership secretary? Last call for nominations for membership secretary. Okay, hearing none, Stephen will be membership secretary for 2023 by acclamation. And am I correct that we do not have, we're not looking to fill the recording secretary, or should we open up nominations for it? AJ, can you address that for me?
Yes, right now, we don't have a candidate yet. So that information will be coming when we have a candidate.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on, if there's no objection, and move to membership comments. Do we have any input from the membership? If any member wants to speak to anything not on tonight's agenda, please put your hand in chat. Last call for membership input. Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time tonight. We want to congratulate Teresa Vaughn and John Steinhardt for their election to the board of directors, and thank you to John Silvermoon and Ann Bennett Rogers for their board service. Thank you to the elections committee for their hard work on making this year's election run smoothly, and to all the volunteers that came out to help count the votes. Administration, we are currently interviewing candidates for the open event manager position. It is our goal to have the successful candidates selected and hired by January of 2024. The 2024 guideline change form is on the .net site and will close on December 15th, 2023. The board will vote on guideline policy change requests at the February 2024 board meeting. We are working on guidelines and a reservation form for site meetings and events. Areas included are Main Stage, Alice's, Dragon Plaza, Xanadu, and Miss Piggy's. We expect to have Doug's Green available for hybrid day meetings in the spring, and we'll have a reservation form for that as well. The Eugene office will be closed on November 23rd and 24th and December 18th through January 1st, 2024. Staff annual reviews will be conducted this November. The 2024 budget request goes to the budget committee on November 15th. Staff has been working very hard assembling that data for the budget committee. The coordinator budgets were due on October 31st. And as a reminder, coordinator capital improvement requests are due January 31st. For event management, the spring fling has been set for Saturday, May 4th, 2024. The Teddy Bear Picnic is set for Sunday, August 18th, 2024. Craft applications will run from January 4th through April 1st, 2024. Craft jury occurs in April of 2024. Food applications, as mentioned by Sue, are up on the websites now, and they run from November 1st through January 19th, 2024. Entertainment applications are up and will run from November 1st through February 15th, 2024. Teen crew applications will run from March 1st through April 14th, 2024. Coordinators must declare their interest in having a teen on their crew in March of 2024. Booth registration deadline to declare attendance is March 1st, 2024. For the site, we have had the Eugene office roof cleaned. It is in good shape and doesn't look like it needs replacing for at least another 5 years. As I said, we expect to have Doug's Green West Ring painted and ready as an alternative meeting space on site by spring. We have contracted with a manufactured home builder by the name of Palm Harbor to quote us a 1,200 square foot manufactured home at the winery to replace the winery house that burnt down. This will be presented to the Fixed Asset Committee and then to the board. The goal is to get it replaced within a year. We have a new phone number for assistance on the site. It is 541-232-4117. It is a cell phone that is shared by site staff. The number is posted at main camp. If there is an emergency, we ask that you call 911. Use this number to reach staff for non-emergency assistance on site. For marketing, we restocked merchandise that sold out at the fair this year, and it is selling very well. Be sure to go to the .org site and buy some for your friends and family. You can also buy a poster from our archives. We are running a direct donor campaign currently, and so please make a donation if you are able. If we all gave $5, it would make a huge difference to our philanthropic giving. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kirsten. And we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Thank you. If you made it to the annual meeting, you got to hear the annual financial report, which includes budget to actual year to date, as well as a projection to the end of the year. And if you missed that, if it's not already up on the .net site, we'll get it up there. And just thumbnail of what happened was, yeah, if you've been coming to these meetings, you've heard we had a couple of big contracts that came in much higher than we expected. We undersold on some of our past sales and the admissions, so we didn't hit our revenue projection, but we've had some other cost savings for some of the expenses, and we had some unexpected cash in because of an insurance recovery. So all in all, it could be that operations will just about break even cash wise, or it could be that we'll fall a little bit short of that. But we have really good cash reserves right now, partly because of the SVOG and partly because we carried some forward from before COVID. So we're in okay shape, but we just haven't really hit our stride yet post COVID, and we're still working on that. The Financial Planning Committee and Budget Committee met to propose the price structure to the board for next year. And this weekend, the board got a chance to go over that. It's on new business this month and it will be voted on next month. And I wanted to go over with the membership some of this, and we'll get some if not all of the packet that went to the board on the .NET site as well, so you can see some of these things that I'm talking about. Going into 2024, the committees planned around keeping the same general parameters, the 35,000 per day limit on average that the board passed, and trying to budget in the black, meaning that our income is going to be our operating income will be at least as much as our operating expenses. So to start with, we had to estimate what our expenses are going to be. We started with the current year budget and those big increases that went to the toilets and buses, and then did an estimated inflation calculator of about 5% to everything else. So that's, to the fuel, to the payroll, to the overhead, just to the supplies, to the contracts. So that was intending to capture some inflation and a bit of growth. And then we also put a bit of a margin in for the food vouchers. You may have heard that we need to redenominate our food vouchers this next year, and we don't know exactly how that will fall out. And in our estimates, we threw in about 10% leeway, just because we don't know exactly how that redenomination will affect the ability to allocate in the same manner that we had before. So once we had our expenses, then we began to look at what will it take to cover that with the basic structure that we have now. And what we did last year was incredibly optimistic in hindsight, but we had many, many years of history of having at least 35,000 people per day on site. And this year, once we pulled all the numbers together, the average was actually closer to 32,000. And the difference was partly in the sale of tickets and partly in the sale of passes. So the revenue projection for 2024 was modeled based on estimates of volume much closer to 2023 than the 5 years before 2019. So that gives us a little bit of fudge room. It gives us a chance for some upside. It's a little bit more conservative. And in the past, even though we were budgeting for potentially more than 35,000 people per day, we have in the past had some of that ability, that fudge room, so that just in case we don't hit all of our targets, that we will be okay. And that's what this projection is intended to do. So when we do that, it does show that we want, at the current prices, current volume, and with those increases, we would not be able to hit budget. So the Budget Committee and Financial Planning Committee are recommending increases, and it's $5 a day for the tickets, and up to $125 for the SO and booth passes, and a $10 increase to what have been the $50 passes that go for community village, teens, elders, and bring those up to $60. So with those increases, we are able to cover costs. We are able to budget in the black. And, as a reminder, we're balancing right now between these 20,000 people per day on average of our internal population with these 15,000 a day of the ticket buyers. We make a lot more money on the ticket buyers because not only it's just that the cost of having somebody come just for the day is much less than the cost of keeping people overnight. So while if we had more ticket buyers, it would take some of the pressure off of us, but because there's so many of us, the pressure is kind of there in order to keep, being able to pay for all the services that we incur and the expense of our site. So I really hope that the board and membership will support and understand these changes. We've got a month to continue talking about them and, figuring it out. Yeah, thanks for your consideration, and that's my report.
Thank you very much. And so we're going to move on to committee reports. And committee reports are to be submitted in writing. We're going to get an oral committee report from the Elections Committee. I believe you're going to speak for them, Stephen.
Yes. And I have submitted an election report for this year, which if it's not on the .net site yet, it will be within the next day or so, and it will also be published in the Fair Family News next week. But I thought I'd go over a few items on the list. We had a pretty good turnout this year. The election ran smoothly. Our membership as of the deadline was 5,286. That is a little over 1% fewer members than we had last year. We did a purge of over 1,700 inactive members earlier this year, and so we added a bunch at the event this year, and came out with just about the same number as we had last year. So that's pretty good, I think. The total ballots issued were 4,604. That's down a little more than 7%, almost 7.5% from last year. That's because some people do not leave physical mailing addresses with us, and we do attempt to contact them all. For some of them, they don't register email addresses with us or phone numbers, and some just don't respond even if we try to contact them. But that is down from last year, and that makes sense because we've actually had 2 elections this year. And when we have ballots that bounce, we remove that address and we don't mail those people a ballot until we confirm a new address. So I kind of anticipated we'd have fewer that we mailed. Undeliverable ballots were, total undeliverable ballots were 91, and that's down almost 50% from last year for that exact same reason. We already weeded out the people. We have a fairly itinerant group of members here compared to some other organizations. And so people do move around a lot and they don't always update their address, and we just have to kind of weed them out. It's a big part of what elections does every year is try to track down members to get them ballots when they haven't given us their current contact information. It's a real challenge, but we actually do pretty well. Out of 139 ballots that were bounced, we were actually able to resend 48 of them. So that's a big chunk of them. The other things I'd like to mention, we received 7 ballots with no signatures on the return envelope that we could not count, and that's up 5 from last year. So a lot more people sent us ballots without signing them this year. We actually received quite a few more than those because when we receive one without a signature, we try to identify who the person is, contact them, and if it's early enough, we resend them their ballot packet and have them send it back, or we have them come to the office and sign it. So I don't have an exact number of how many people total did not sign their ballots, but when it came time to count them, there were 7 people whose ballots we couldn't count because of that reason. So next year, please, everybody, try to remember to sign your ballots because we cannot count them unless they're signed. That's about it for the report. There's some more detail and some more number crunching in the printed report, which y'all can read on the website or in the Fair Family News, but I don't want to get into that tonight, so we can move on. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so we're going to move on now to old business. And so do you want to screen share this or shall I? Motion on the floor. I can do it if you like. I have it set.
You can do it, and I'll get it open if you want to, if at some point you decide you need your
Okay.
eyes and hands for something else.
Okay, so this motion is listed as John Alexander and Sandra. Who's making the motion and who's seconding it?
John is doing the presentation on it.
Okay, so can we say John has moved and Sandra has seconded this motion to amend the rules of order motion passed last month?
Yes, please. So moved.
Okay. Go ahead.
So after much discussion, well, I think folks I think this stands for itself and it's on the screen. So I think what we're really talking about doing is and I want to thank Stephen for helping come up with this idea, is to clarify some of the rules around how we do business at board meetings. And so there will be a committee that will work on that and some other aspects of how we function as a board to be more efficient, effective, transparent, and clear.
Okay.
And if Sandra would like to add anything to that, I'd welcome it.
Yeah, okay, I'd like to do that.
what happened after we passed this policy in October, when we were trying to follow up on it, we found out that we all had different understandings of what exactly we had passed. So this is an attempt at clarification to make sure that it's known that this is a committee of the board and officers. We wanted to make sure that officers got added in there. And so the bold are the only parts of this policy that are being that we're recommending to update. And then there's just a little bit of wording in number 3. Are you trying to make it yellow instead of bold?
I was highlighting your bold, yeah, so it's
okay.
Better.
And the board, just for clarification, a couple of phrases in number 3. The board may, the original, as you can say, it said refer matters of process to the Rules Committee, and we put the board may refer matters of process to the Rules Committee for recommendation to the board on board meeting process policy. So it's just for clarification so that it would be clear to all of us what we actually passed as policy.
Thank you. Is there any member input on this motion? Please put your hand up in chat if you have any member input. Last call for member input. Is there any member input? Heather.
So I just have to register a concern. I'd really rather it be a question, but I realize we're not going to do back and forth. But I've never seen anything like this before, and I don't understand why there would not be a board working session, a board work session on this or something. It just seems very odd to me, because all of a sudden the board can appoint itself as a committee and have what have to be realistically board meetings that are not treated as board meetings. So it's super confusing as to why this would be done and why it would be done this way. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Heather. Is there any other member input? I'll give it just another moment here. Does anyone have any member input? Like to put their hand in chat? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any? Oh, okay, we'll go to board discussion. John Alexander.
Yeah, I know that there's no back and forth during member input, but I appreciate that. And I would like to propose that as the committee does this work, that maybe we consider having a work session on it when the work is done. One of the things that we find is that it's really hard to get a lot of the work that we need to get done at these meetings. And therefore, at like the ad hoc committee on codes of conduct, it gives us the opportunity to have some more time together that's scheduled. So that's just, I think that was a good idea that was proposed, and that would be a good opportunity to get feedback either in the scoping of something like that or in the development of it.
Thank you, John. Sandra.
I just wanted to say that a lot of boards do have rules committees that deal with just these kinds of questions, and it's a standing committee, and we just have never had that. And I think that it's time that we do. Clearly, we're needing to be able to determine how decisions are made. And a lot of this just has to do with process, this whole policy. And so this is a rules committee, and it's not out of in fact, I think it's more the norm than not having one. And I don't think it's having a board meeting. I mean, you can have subcommittees that deal with certain topics that aren't board board meetings. And all of this has to be approved by the board in open session anyway. So it would be very transparent at that point. And yeah, I mean, they're just recommending policy to the board and the board approves it. So they don't have any independent abilities to make decisions. So I hope that that helps to satisfy some of your concerns, Heather.
Paxton.
Yeah, I view this more as how the actual board functions. I don't view it as some way to do nefarious stuff. We're actually arguing over, do we use call a question? Do we have to vote on call a question? The Robert's Rules of Order have not been our normal way of doing things. And we're incorporating more and more of that into the meeting process. And that's what I think this is really kind of oriented towards. That's what I've seen in the discussions. So it's not, to me, it's what we need to do to get our work done. Thank you.
Thank you, Paxton. And I think normally, Steve, you'd be into member input, but I think because you're on an officer on the elections thing, I don't know. Yeah, during board discussions, do officers normally fit in with board members? Either way, Stephen should speak because he's the member. This is right up his alley. I'm just trying to get clear for the future.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. First of all, I don't remember any discussion that the Rules Committee would meet in closed session at all. My understanding, because we hadn't discussed it all, my assumption is that these would be open meetings just like any other committee meeting. So membership would be able to participate in the meetings. They would at least be able to observe all the meetings, and there would be opportunities for them to participate. And also, Sandra said most of what I was going to say. This would be board members functioning as a committee, not taking binding votes, not setting policy. So this would not be a board meeting when the committee meets. This would be a committee that makes recommendations. The only votes they would take would be recommendations to come back to the board to vote in as part of a regular meeting. So I don't think this is any way of getting around having a regular board meeting at all. It's just a committee. Thanks.
Is there any other discussion on this motion to amend last month's rules policy or adoption? Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. Is there any objection to the motion? Is there any objection to passing this motion? Otherwise, we'll just adopt it unanimously. Okay, hearing no objection, the motion is adopted unanimously. And we're on to new business. So are we gonna are we gonna do a presentation for each new business item from the people who are putting it up?
Stephen, we haven't started that. We're gonna do it as we last meeting.
So shall I just read them through and move on?
Yes.
Okay. So new business for next meeting will be updating bank signers, sponsored by George Braddock and Arna Shaw. There will be Financial Planning Committee 2024 revenue projections, George Braddock and Sandra Bauer. Bylaws revisions to Article 11, Section 1, Lisa Parker and Paxton Hogue. Craft Committee appointment, Jay Schuster, sponsored by Arna Shaw and Sue Theolis. And a Jill Hyman Vision Fund appointment of Isabella Moses, sponsored by Arna Shaw and Tom Horn. And with that, we will move on to meeting evaluation. And Lisa, are you in meeting evaluation or did you get missed somewhere?
No, I just had a comment on the item of new business about the bylaws. It's actually a correction, not a revision. I mean, I know that might sound like splitting hairs, but I think language matters. And so, yeah, it's a bylaws correction. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so on to meeting evaluation. Would anyone like to speak to meeting evaluation? Getting close to last call for meeting evaluation. Anne.
I would just like to thank everybody for the past year on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Arna.
Well, I'm sorry we didn't take a moment to thank both Ann and John for their service this last year. And I do want to thank them. I also think this is like maybe the shortest board meeting I ever went to. And what and I think that's great. And also one of the smoothest. And I want to thank you, Stephen, for your facilitation. I really appreciate it. I think you help make our meetings smoother. And I hope you will continue facilitating our meetings. And so I thought this went great. So thank you all.
Thank you. And did you get missed, Sandra? Sorry.
Yes, I also wanted to thank you, Stephen, for doing a great job at keeping us all on track and making it run, more efficiently. And I want to congratulate Arna and AJ on the new officers' positions and thank Ann and John for their service. So, and Teresa and John Steinhardt for being added to the board. We had a great retreat and look forward to working together again. Thanks.
Thank you. And Paxton.
I too want to thank Ann and John for their service, years of service I've served with them. Appreciate that. And I really look forward to working with our new board members and really appreciate the re-election of Sandra. And anyway, I really appreciate the way I think we're going. I agree this was a very short meeting, and I think it shows that we're trying to work together. So thank you.
Thank you. And George.
I just want to add my voice to thanking you for the job you did, Stephen. Really, it was a pleasure to be at this meeting. You know what you're doing, and it really comes across. And I'd also like to welcome the two new board members and thank the outgoing John Silvermoon and Ann.
Thank you very much, George. And Lisa.
I too would like to thank Ann and John S. for their service. It's been a pleasure, and welcome a new John S. and Teresa to the board, and I look forward to working with both of you.
Thank you, Lisa. I want to make sure everyone understands that members are welcome to chime in here. So if there are any members who want to speak to the meeting evaluation, they should put their hand in chat. And Sandra.
Yeah, I forgot to thank Linda Gingrich for all her years of service in the budget committee. And she's moved on to main stage. So I think we can all get backstage passes from her now. Just teasing about that. But anyway, thank you very much for everything you've done, Linda, and you will be missed.
Thank you. John Steinhardt.
Since this was such a well-run meeting and so short, I just wanted to take this opportunity to make it 10 seconds longer. Thanks to everybody.
And that's all the hands I've got. So last call for meeting evaluation. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to how the meeting went before we move on? Last call. Okay, seeing none, the announcement, as noted earlier, is a board work session on Monday, November 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. regarding emerald ash borer. That information should be available on the .net site if you want to attend that. The next board meeting is Monday, December 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And now we'll close with the President's Piece.
Hello, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. I'm gonna be a minute, so take this, hold your horses. I want to first thank both Ann and John for their service to this organization, not only as board members but as committee members and volunteers. I want to welcome both Teresa and John Steinhardt to the board. We've got some work to do. And so welcome. I want to thank the staff for a lovely weekend retreat and all that they did to make it comfortable for everyone. So I want to also thank the board for their decision to work together and start anew. And I hope that the membership begins to see that going forward. And I want to start with a quote here, and then I'll speak a little bit afterwards. The quote is, "Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength." Our leadership has decided not to surrender. We have been through hardships in front of you. We have been through our struggles in front of you. But we keep showing up. And that's a testament to the volunteers who show up every day and encourage us, send us emails, and tell us to keep trying, however they say that. I want to let you know that it is the intention of this board for us to start working better together. I was honored and my heart was full to see the amount of effort over this weekend retreat that went into us establishing a base for which we work together. And I want to honor that in every way. I want to also say that it may seem boring going forward in our meetings sometimes because we're doing extra work to communicate with each other and work together. I hope the result of that is that you see that on the screen when you show up each month to watch us work together, that you see collaboration, that you see a kindness about us with each other that promotes a better organization for you and a better fare each year. I want to thank all of the membership who voted this year, and I want to encourage you that if you didn't vote, that you vote. Your vote matters with each election. And I want to leave you tonight with just, I just want to express my gratitude. I understand what my position as president represents to all of those folks out there who look like me or who look up to me. The idea that this organization is practicing what it preaches and providing access to marginalized folks. It is not just a position that I hold here. You will see me work every day. You will see my efforts. And I want to just let you know that I'm doing that on your behalf. So thank you very much for the privilege and the honor of serving, and good night.
Thank you, AJ. And with that, we've reached the end of the agenda, so the meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Amazing.
See you on the 20th.
That'll be a record.
Everyone.
It is a record.
2 weeks.
It's a record.
Thanks,
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, guys. Peace.
Happy harvest.
Night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.